All right, good evening and welcome to the July 28th, 2022 regular meeting of the City of Xenia City Council. We will have an invocation led by Pastor Shwoku. No, I didn't say it right. I'm sorry, Pastor.
I don't know who you're talking about.
Okay. And I'm going to let
Shwoko, Pastor Shwoko.
Pastor Shwoko. Thank you, Mayor, for correcting me on television. And after that invocation, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilwoman Rebecca Dean. All right. Would you all please rise?
As God is with you, God forgives abundantly.
All right.
Let us pray.
Thank you.
Ever good and gracious God, we thank you for this day. We know you are a great God who's made everything that we have here in this city, in this world, for your good purpose. Thank you for the resources that you provide our land. The resources that you provide in terms of tax revenue, the resources you provide in hospitality, the resources you provide within business, that we may be a community that is one. There are times, and we rely on your forgiveness, when we misuse resources, when we don't do things, and things that we don't do so well. So we ask for your forgiveness on the work that has not gone in a way that is pleasing to you. And give us the courage to continually strive to do your will and according to the charter of this city. We are thankful for your activity in this community, in lives of service, of joy, of worship, of commerce, of recreation, of community development, people development. At this time, we remember the work that we have before us, the work of this agenda that has been prepared, the work of the election that is going to be coming soon, to make some charter amendments. We hope and pray that you be within us and with others, that we may come together under you, within our nation, within our state, within our city. Bless the leaders here and all the leaders of various types within our community. And may all of us come together with joy and thanksgiving on the 14th of August, where we take a step ahead and we dare confess ourselves as one people, worshiping you, the source of our unity, that we might come together and truly be the hospitable place that we and you would have us be. May your Holy Spirit rest on this meeting, within us and around us, that we may continue to do well the work that you have given us. In the name of Christ, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Shwoku from First Evangelical Lutheran Church right here in Xenia. Am I correct?
I'm not only forgiving, I'm graceful. Cut it short. Pastor Schwab.
Pastor Shwoku. Much easier. All right. All right. Thank you. And thank you, Councilwoman Dean, for leading the Pledge of Allegiance. At this time, I'll call our meeting to order and ask for a roll call, please.
Vice President Urschel, Councilman Scrimmons,
Present.
Councilwoman Dean,
Here.
Councilman Brown,
Here.
Councilman Dean,
Here.
Mayor Mays,
Here.
President Smith.
Here. 2 weeks ago, Vice President Urschel informed me of his absence for tonight. I would motion to excuse him. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by the mayor. Any discussion or questions? All right, roll call, please.
Councilman Scrimmons,
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean,
Aye.
Councilman Brown,
Aye.
Councilman Dean,
Aye.
Mayor Mays,
Aye.
President Smith.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Next on the agenda is approval of minutes from our July 14th, 2022 regular meeting. I will ask for a motion to accept the minutes as written.
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman Dean. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Councilman Branham. Any additions, corrections, notifications on the minutes before us? Seeing no changes, I'd like to accept the minutes into record. Could I get a roll call, please?
Councilman Scrivens?
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Graham?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Mayor May?
Abstain.
President Smith?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. On our agenda is a special presentation. Tonight, we're honored to have Xenia Municipal Court Judge David McNamee, recently appointed to our court. And so at this time, I'll turn the floor over to him. Thank you, sir.
Mayor, Council, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you all here this evening. I'm from Xenia, and so I have a great deal of pride with this community, and it's always been a source of pride to be from this area and have my family be from here. And this really is an honor to be able to speak to the government here. It's also an honor to receive the appointment to the bench, and I hope to be here for the long foreseeable future. I will say I've worked in private practice, I've worked for the county, I've spent a lot of time with Brian and Brent, not a lot, but they may think it's a lot. And it's just a top-notch operation. I mean, it's just absolutely impressive, the way the different departments work together, the notifications, and it's just nice to see. So I wanted to speak to you because I'm wanting to take some of what's happening over in Xenia Municipal Court into a little bit of a different direction, and how I'd like to start addressing some of the issues that I see that come before the court. And it's going to be a little bit different, and so I wanted to just get it out there and start talking about it. I've gone down to Fairfield Municipal Court to observe what I'm going to be instituting next year in action. And my mentor judge, Judge Campbell down there, she started one of the first, it's a mental health docket. She started one of the first mental health dockets in the state, and she's had great success with it. She's also started an OBI docket as well. You know, as a judge, you know, one of my objectives need to be to reduce recidivism, to protect the community in my sentencing, but also, and this is where the twist comes a little bit, to try to educate the defendant. And that's really, I'm a safety net. I have resources available to me that a lot of the people that appear in front of me don't have. I have a probation department that's outstanding. You know, they provide services, they coordinate services for the defendants. And so my objective is to attempt to educate the defendants that have the issues that we see. One of the biggest problems we have is homelessness. When I've talked to everybody, the homelessness here in our community is a problem. My opinion is we can't cure homelessness without curing the things that lead to it. And those things that lead to that mostly are mental health and addiction. And unless we're able to address those two types of things, we're going to continue to have these problems. And so the question becomes, what can I do about it? What can we as a community do about it? And that's where the Supreme Court's authorized specialized dockets. Two of the dockets that I'm going to institute, one is the mental health docket, and one is an OBI docket. And so what does that mean? Basically what that means is if the defendant qualifies, they have services that are provided to them. They do what they're supposed to do. They rehabilitate, it helps with housing, it helps with all types of things, transportation, coordination of benefits. Because a lot of times, you know, things that I take for granted, like driving to the doctor's office, that's a huge impediment to 90% of the people that appear in front of me. And so I want to make an effort to try to solve those problems by treating the issues that are there. And I'm not naive. I know that, you know, I'm not going to have a 100% success rate. But I do know that the statistics show that this can lead to a better result, lead to less recidivism, and lead to a better community and a stronger community. And so those are the things that I'm going to do over at the court in an effort to provide a better service to the community. Now, of course, and I'm not here asking for anything, I'm here just to inform. And I want to take down any barriers that are between the city of Xenia and Xenia Municipal Court. You know, I'm part of the entire process here. I intend to show financial and fiscal responsibility. We will apply for grants before we come to anybody for any money on any of this. The Supreme Court provides services and helps coordinate grants to help pay for these types of things. So, any questions?
All right, we'll open up the floor. Who's got questions for Judge? Mayor, any comments?
I'm very excited. I'm very thankful that you came today. Thank you for speaking and just opening up this line of communication. And I think it's a great partnership, and I'm thrilled with what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate you coming here tonight as well. And the open communication between the court and the city is very important. I think as council members, mostly our interaction with municipal court is actually through the law director, which would be through Ms. Fisher, who would relay any concerns over to you. So, but I appreciate the job you're doing. Appreciate you hitting the ball running and you know, addressing the issue. Homelessness probably is the #1 complaint as council that we hear because it's just it's an issue that it's created, it's very visible in the community, but then there's a lot of reasoning behind how that person got there. And you hit the nail right on the head. It's mental health and it's addiction. That's probably 99% of it. There's always somebody that's displaced for some reason or another, but yeah, thanks for trying to address that.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time.
Anyone else?
Just want to say welcome aboard, and
Thank you.
we have a plan for your building.
Oh, hopefully it includes me. I really like my job.
Good to have you on board.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
All right. All right, next on our agenda is opportunity for audience comments. This is the opportunity in the meeting for anyone that would care to come to the podium. Give us your name and address for the record. Limit your comments 3 to 4 minutes. We have no one coming forward. And City Clerk, do we have any emails to share tonight? No, sir. All right, next is old business. Our first item under old business is Ordinance 2022-21. This is a public hearing tonight. This is amending Title 8, which is titled Boards, Commissions, and Committees of Part 2 of City Government of Xenia City Code. This was last introduced by Councilman Scribbins on our July 14th regular meeting.
Mr. President, I'd like to move for final passage.
Thank you. Move for passage by Councilman Scribbins. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by the mayor. Okay, at this time, I will turn this over to Madam Law Director, correct?
Well, this is your public hearing and vote. I'd certainly be happy to answer any questions anyone has on Title 8. We did go through it pretty extensively at your meeting on the 14th. Again, as we've gone through with the amendments to the charter that our voters have approved, we're making changes to Part 2, the city government part of our Xenia City Code, just making updates that we need. This updates the chapter dealing with boards and commissions.
All right, thank you very much. So as the public hearing is open, at this time I'd like to invite anyone in our audience who would care to come to the podium and speak in favor of these amendments to our city code. All right, if anyone in the audience would care to come forward and speak against amending our city code, now is your opportunity to do so. Okay, seeing no one come before us, I'm going to close the public hearing. Invite any comments or questions from City Council. Councilman Scribbins?
Thank you, Mr. President. Just wanted to thank the mayor. She chairs the Legislative Review and Government Affairs Committee and the law director, and they've hammered out some good language here. And from where I sit, the 8 points that will be considered in this piece of legislation, I'm all for it, especially we're going to establish a CRA housing council, and that's according to state law. So we're just bringing everything into compliance.
All right, thank you very much. Any other comments or questions? I would note, I'm glad to see BRCA redefined as Xenia Recreation and Events Commission and not CRACA. So thank you for that. All right. Any other comments or questions? All right. This time I'll close the public hearing. We have a motion and a second on the floor, and I'll ask for a roll call, please.
Councilman Scrivens?
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Branham?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Mayor Mays?
Aye.
President Smith?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Our next item is also public hearing. This is ordinance 2022-22. This is levying assessments for the improvements of city streets and public ways by the lighting therefore within the street lighting district number 1, known as the Sterling Green Crossing subdivision. And this is for years 2023 through 2027. This was introduced by Vice President Urschel at our last meeting. In his absence, I'll ask who would care to introduce this.
I'll introduce.
Introduced by Councilman Branham. Thank you. And do we have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Dean. This time I'll open up the public hearing and ask anyone in the audience if they would care to come and speak in favor of these assessments. All right. If anyone would care to speak against the assessments for the street lighting district. All right. Seeing no one come before us. Any questions from council regarding this?
Just one comment, Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
The owner of each lot would pay an annual fee of $31.14.
All right, and that's for street lights in that subdivision. All right, if there's no other comments or questions, I'll ask for, close the public hearing. Did I do that? I will close the public hearing and ask for a roll call, please.
Councilman Scrivens?
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Branham?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Mayor Mays?
Aye.
President Smith?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is also a public hearing. This is ordinance 2022-23. It's also deja vu here. It's the same thing almost. It's levying assessments for the improvement of city streets, public ways by the lighting therefore of street lighting district number 2, known as the Greenway subdivision, section 2, NKA section 3 replat. This is also for years 2023 through 2027. This was introduced by Councilman Dean at our last meeting.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to move for passage.
Thank you. Move for passage by Councilman Dean. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by the mayor. All right, this time I'll open up the public hearing and ask anyone in the audience if they would like to come forward and speak against these assessments for the Greenway subdivision. All right, seeing no one in the audience come forward. If anyone would care to come forward and speak, did I say against?
You did.
I started wrong. That was supposed to be for. So if anyone would care to speak either for or against, now's your opportunity to do so. Sorry, I got a little ahead of myself. We got a big night tonight. All right, we have no comments. So at this time, I'm going to close the public hearing on this item. Ask any council members if they have any questions or concerns. Comments?
Thank you, Mr. President. Just
Sure.
one, that the owners of, in this subdivision, each lot would pay an annual fee of $62.69.
All right, thank you. So noted. Any other comments or questions? All right, so close the public hearing and ask for a roll call, please.
Councilman Scrivens?
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Branham?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Mayor Mays?
Aye.
President Smith?
Aye. Thank you. Our next item, item D, is also a public hearing. This is ordinance 2022-24. This is providing for the special election on amendments to Articles 6, 7, and 16 of the Charter of the City of Xenia, Ohio, for the said election to be held on the same date and times as the November 8th general election. This was introduced by Councilman Scrivens at our last meeting.
Mr. President, I'd like to move for final passage.
Thank you. Move for passage by Councilman Scrivens. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by the mayor. This time I'll open the public hearing and ask anyone who would like to speak in favor of the election for the charter changes to come to the podium at this time. And I know we have a member of the audience that was on Charter Review Committee, so thanks for being here. All right. Anyone care to come forward and speak against the charter changes and for the amendments to these articles? Now's your opportunity to do so. All right. And at this time, I'll close the public hearing. Madam Law Director, do you have any comments?
This is our, excuse me, our last two sets of charter amendments to go to the ballot on in November, and that will complete our review, and we'll start the process again in 5 years.
All right, thank you very much. Any comments or questions from council members? All right, not seeing any. So we have a motion by Councilman Scrivens and seconded by the mayor. At this time, I'll ask for a roll call, please.
Councilman Scrivens.
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean.
Aye.
Councilman Brandon.
Aye.
Councilman Dean.
Aye.
Mayor May.
Aye.
President Smith.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, and we'll see those on the ballot in November. Our next item, item E, is ordinance 2022-25. It is also a public hearing. This is providing for the special election on amendments to Articles 1, 2, and 3 of the Charter of the City of Xenia for the said election to be held on the same date and times as the November 8th, 2022 general election. This was introduced by Councilman Dean at our last meeting.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to move for passage.
Thank you. Moved for passage by Councilman Dean. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Scrivens. This time, I will open the public hearing and ask for anyone who would care to speak for or against. Now's your opportunity. All right, we have a small audience tonight for those that are watching. So at this time, I will close the public hearing, invite any comments from our sitting council. Okay, Madam Law Director, do you have anything else to add to this?
No, sir.
No?
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So we have a motion and a second. So at this time, I'll ask for a roll call, please.
Councilman Scrivens.
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean.
Aye.
Councilman Brandon.
Aye.
Councilman Dean.
Aye.
Mayor May.
Aye.
President Smith.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Moving on to new business. Item A is ordinance 2022-26, titled an introduction. This is amending section 1062.10 titled Hunting and Fishing in the Xenia City Code. So this time I'll turn the floor over to the Law Director.
Thank you. We are presenting this amendment to you this evening. The city manager and I have been in talks. We do want to do a comprehensive update of Chapter 10, our park regs. This was something that was brought to me by the Xenia Police Division, an issue that they're having right now. As council knows, we stock the pond in Shawnee Park for fishing. We have been having problems this year with people net fishing. They throw their net in and pull out a huge amount of fish. We need to address this. I think while the city stocks that park, we encourage people to go down there, relax, fish with a rod and reel. Fishing with the net was never supposed to be allowable. So that's why we're presenting 1062-10 to you this evening. We did make a few other, I would say, updates to the other sections of this. This particular provision in the city code was put on the books in 1991. It hasn't been updated since then. So we did make a few updates, but we specifically added in C, if you'll look at number 3, no person can fish in violation of any posted regulations. We're giving the city manager the authority to make regulations regarding fishing. If, for example, we would have a drought and the water level gets too low, this would authorize them to close fishing at the pond. If we had a problem where we had a toxic algae bloom in the pond, again, this would give him the authority to close the pond till we could get that problem corrected. We also did then say in 2, in all instances, the use of hooks left unattended, traps, spears, gigs, we added nets. You can't hunt with firearms, weapons, or anything other than rods for fishing. So If you're gonna go fishing, go fishing. Use rod and reel. I hate to have to do this, but unfortunately a few bad actors have necessitated us needing to make this change. And Brent, is there anything you would like to add?
No, this is not a new issue. It's been ongoing for a while, but it's definitely something that our police division has observed a lot more of this year. We're trying to maintain the park for the enjoyment of all folks. Unfortunately, a lot of folks do net the fish and use the smaller fish for bait. So they're essentially poaching that. So again, we're just trying to, to create a standard that is enforceable and reasonable and allows for the quiet enjoyment of the park.
Thank you. All right, at this time, any comments or questions for Law Director regarding this discussion tonight on net fishing? Councilman Scrivens, do you have any comments?
Thank you, Mr. President. Just one. I'm an avid fisherman, have been since I had hair, and I've never used a cast net to fish. I always use the rod and the reel. I give the fish at least a fighting chance. Definitely, this is a good piece of legislation.
All right. So if I understand what you're catching at Shawnee Park, you really don't want to eat it anyway. Is that correct?
We would generally not advise that.
It's catch and release.
I mean, I'll be honest. I mean,
Folks should be aware that that is a natural low spot.
Right.
And so the park really, if you look at the history of the park, it was developed around that with the intent of using the wetland as a recreational resource.
Right.
So you do get automotive runoff. Obviously you have fowl that are hard to control, geese, so you have fecal matter in the water. It is intended to be catch and release, not necessarily as a food resource.
Right.
Mr. President, also, anytime you stock a pond or a body of water, the fish come from someplace else. We don't know where these fish came from. So.
All right, very good. All right, any other comments or questions? All right, who would care to introduce this? Introduced by Councilman Scrivens. Thank you. Our next item is Resolution 2022-Q. This is authorizing the execution of a use agreement with Bird Rides Incorporated for the rentals and use of low-speed micro-mobility devices in the city of Xenia. At this time, I'll turn the floor over to Mr. Merriman.
Thank you, sir. Staff is recommending council approve execution of the use agreement with Bird Rides Incorporated via this resolution, which would subsequently authorize the use of low-speed electric scooters in our community. After negotiation with Bird and extensive discussion among our administrative staff, as well as a lot of discussion with our police division leadership, we believe this service would be a useful addition here in our community, both for the enjoyment of our residents as well as visitors to our community. So there are some regulations in here to ensure that the scooters are maintained. There'll be a local maintenance function, a person hired, so that these aren't used and fall into disrepair and are just discarded. They're taking responsibility for that. So again, we feel like this agreement covers core conditions that will make it an appropriate service delivery application in our community, and just recommend council's approval to allow us to execute that.
All right, thank you very much. Very straightforward. Any questions for the city manager tonight regarding the mobility device? Councilman Scrivens?
Thank you, Mr. President. I've seen these in operation in Cincinnati and in Dayton, and I'm very impressed with them. I hope that they'll go over good here in Xenia.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you. So, is this just scooters? Is this also bikes? Is this
just scooters initially? And I think council could expect that you might see, if these things gain a following and are properly utilized, that you might see other companies with similar or even more diverse devices that would look to, to provide services here in the community. But these are just good scooters.
All right, thank you.
I might have missed it in the report. How long is this agreement good for?
We don't have that answer.
The agreement, how long is it good for?
I might have missed
We
it.
put a term in there, if I recall. We did it it's a 1 year, but then it automatically renews for successive 1-year terms unless either party gives advance notice to the other party of their intent not to renew.
Okay.
So it would run until December 31st of this year and then automatically renew for 1-year cycle.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? All right.
Does, Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
Does the city earn any revenue from this venture?
No, we don't anticipate having any costs, and I don't think there's any revenue provision under the arrangement.
Does that answer your question?
They ride the town and they spend money, right? That's-
I think that's the sort of the indirect value to the community.
Yeah.
Very good. Something else to do. All right, thank you. If we have no other questions at this time, I'll ask for a motion to authorize the use agreement.
So moved.
Moved by the mayor. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Seconded by Councilman Dean. If there's no other questions, I'll ask for a roll call, please.
Councilman Scrivens.
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean.
Aye.
Councilman Brandon.
Aye.
Councilman Dean.
Aye.
Mayor Mays.
Aye.
President Smith.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Our next item is Resolution 2022-RR. This is authorizing an execution of infrastructure development agreement with Athletes in Action for the city of Xenia and the Athletes in Action Water Main Extension Project. Mr. Merriman, I'll turn the floor over to you.
Thank you, sir. Our partners at the Greene County Commission have graciously authorized a $1 million grant to the city for the purposes of installing a water main extension to serve the AIA campus, as well as creating a loop connection that would attach to our existing water infrastructure in the Greene Regional Business Park. Service expansion at the AIA campus is required to accommodate the addition of the John Wooden Family Fieldhouse, which will be a significant addition to the services and facility capacity that they have, and we anticipate literally tens of thousands of additional visitors per year, unique visitors to that campus. Additionally, the extension of this line to allow for the connection to the Greene Regional Business Park will allow us to loop that system, which will provide better fire flow pressure, as well as a secondary means of service if we have an issue with the existing connection. So there's dual benefit that brings not only benefit to this institution, but to our city, as well as from the county's perspective, an opportunity for revenue and growth and economic development opportunities that'll benefit the whole county. So we're very thankful both to Greene County Commission as well as to AIA for this opportunity. We are presenting council this evening with the recommendation to authorize Resolution 2022-RR, which would allow us to execute the infrastructure development agreement with AIA, and this would be necessary for us to set the terms and conditions of that public-private partnership that allow us to commence with the installation of this water feature.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Merriman, for that report. Any questions for Mr. Merriman regarding this development agreement with Athletes in Action?
Didn't see a time.
All right. Do you have a question, Councilman Scriven?
No, Mr. President, thank you.
No? No questions? Thank you, sir, for that report. So at this time, I will ask for a motion for council to accept the infrastructure development agreement.
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman Dean. Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by the mayor. Any questions for either one of those two? All right, this time I'll ask for a roll call, please.
Councilman Scrivens.
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean.
Aye.
Councilman Brandon.
Aye.
Councilman Dean.
Aye.
Mayor Mays.
Aye.
President Smith.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Our next item is Resolution 2022-SS. This is authorizing an execution of a memorandum of understanding known as the MOU with the Community STEAM Academy here in Xenia for a Greene County Community Investment Grant. Mr. Merriman, could you please explain?
Yes, sir, thank you. The Greene County Board of Commissioners, through the Greene County Development Department, has established the Community Investment Grant Program, which is designed to provide financial assistance grants up to $200,000 to jurisdictions for the development of sites and infrastructure designed to attract and sustain business opportunities. Earlier this year, the city requested applications from community, and we received 5 applications related to this program. After review, we've identified the Community STEAM Academy building located at 135 East Church Street as the most ready and viable project. This redevelopment project will activate this former Xenia YMCA facility that's been vacant since the Reach Center was instituted and the old Y service left for the Reach Center, and that was in 2019. The current plans for the building, call for initial location of a tuition-free community school focusing on science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. On March 10th of this year, council authorized staff to submit the grant to Greene County Development Department for the Community Investment Grant on behalf of STEAM Academy. On May 26th, the Board of Commissioners approved a $100,000 grant to the city for the purpose of supporting this STEAM Academy project. The MOU that would be authorized with the approval of Resolution 2022-SS outlines the terms and conditions necessary for the Community STEAM Academy to receive those grant funds and proper usage. So we are recommending recommending this evening the approval of the resolution so that we might complete this grant process and allow the Academy to employ those funds for their facility.
All right, thank you, Mr. Merriman. All right, I'll open the floor up for questions for Mr. Merriman. Who would like to start first?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Merriman, STEAM Academy was scheduled to open this year. What happened?
Yeah, we're very disappointed, as I know their leadership is. They sent out notices to the prospective students and parents, as well as community stakeholders, announcing that they have been forced to delay their opening for one academic year. They cited a number of issues, many issues related to chain of supply issues for the facility rehab. Also things such as inability to get computer equipment. They had placed an order for all of their computer equipment. Each student would be equipped with a computer, as well as obviously staff members. They were given a 3-month lead time estimate. That was over 6 months ago, and they've not been given any specific timeline on when they would be able to get that equipment. So they've had a host of challenges, and we certainly understand that. We're, I think, at the home level, as well as organizationally here at the city, experiencing some of those same challenges. So our understanding is that they will move forward with continuing to advance work to rehab the facility, and are poised with the capital stack that they have lined up to complete that, with intentions that they would have a better opportunity to open next year. And I think even looking at expanding the grades next year over what they had initially planned to offer this year.
Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, thank you.
I can tell you that I regularly communicate with Mr. Irvin, who has been here to present, and he is very determined on this project, and there is no sign of him slowing down. I know he's frustrated by the slowdown of the things like the computers and a few other things, even this grant, expecting a little bit more. But he's excited about the project. He has not lost any focus on the project. It is moving forward.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. We have a question. I'm very appreciative of the county grant on that previous motion of $1 million for the water project for Athletes in Action. But if I remember right, I thought we had up to $200,000 to award the STEAM Academy. So what happened that amount was reduced to half?
I'm not sure I can specifically speak to it other than say the grant amount is up to $200,000 per project. We're eligible for a project a year. And so I think the county applies discretion as to how much they want to. I think they probably base that on what they believe will be the net business activity impact. So again, I can't speak on their behalf to suggest exactly what the rationale was. We think this is a good project in that it is providing opportunities for not only educational enhancement, but really workforce development. So obviously very appreciative of any amount that the county can offer.
And
But
I
if I had
am
to guess, I'd say
appreciative of
that's
that. Right. But in the past, have they ever reduced the amount?
Well, we've had a couple. This is a fairly new program, still sort of going through the growing pains of a new grant program. This would be the first full award that I think we've actually applied and received. And the project that we had applied for last year was not able to move forward, so we had to withdraw that application. So I think, Mr. President, part of this is for the program is evolving as we are participating with it, so the standards are continuing to evolve.
Yeah, I just appreciate the $100,000. I didn't know if there was anything they could have done to get the full amount, but you know, something is better than nothing. So, any other questions for City Manager?
Just one, Mr. President. I understand that there were other entities that made application for these funds, and this particular outfit was the one who had the best application. Is that correct?
That's correct, and among those other applicants, some of those projects we didn't feel were really they were more conceptual than ready for implementation, or lacked full definition. And then in a couple cases, they were for very small amounts, and we felt that we had other funding opportunities that we could steer those folks toward, that they could be successful in seeking the smaller amounts through other programs, and the intent was that we would save a larger project for this larger amount of money.
Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, thank you. All right, any other questions for Mr. Merriman? All right, seeing no other questions, at this time, I'll seek a motion to authorize the MOU.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Branham. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Dean. All right, and I'll ask for a roll call, please.
Councilman Perkins?
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Branham?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Mayor Ray?
Aye.
President Smith?
Aye. All right, thank you. Excuse me. Our next item is Resolution 2022-T. This is establishing a special revenue fund for the purpose of receiving the One Ohio settlement funds to be used only for the approved purposes set forth in the One Ohio MOU. So at this time, I will turn over the floor to our Finance Director.
Thank you, Council President. The city is in receipt of its first payment for the One Ohio opioid settlement dollars. That payment was an amount of $10,961.88. The Auditor of State has required that we set up a special revenue fund to properly account for these dollars. Because he's requiring that, we do not need to petition the Auditor of State to go ahead and create the fund, but because it's him that's requiring it and not a part of the code in the ORC, we do still have to come back to council and ask that you establish the special revenue fund, and so that's what we're here doing tonight. I know I've had some conversation with the city manager, who's had some conversation with the police chief, and we do believe that there's some acceptable uses of these dollars that would help to decrease some of the supply of opioids that are available here in the community. So I know there are active discussions on how these dollars can be spent, and we think that we've got some ways that meet the requirements set forth in the agreement that would benefit the city. So we're asking that the fund be created tonight via this resolution.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Duke tonight? Yep, Councilman Scrivens?
Thank you, Mr. President. I understand that our first payment is $10,961.88, and that'll go for another 18 years?
That's correct.
That's all right. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, thank you. What's that total? Do you know?
Well, I don't have it in front of me, but it's close to $190,000.
I got a computer here. Let me see. Just curious.
Now, can I continue, Mr. President?
Sure, but is that amount set every year, or is that
Is
fluctuating?
it fixed?
Well, I'm not sure, because if you look at the documentation that the state had provided before on what we would receive, this is a little below that annual amount. So I'm not sure exactly what recalculation has happened since that last communication that they had with us. So I can't say for certain whether or not that this amount will change over time. My guess is that it'll be pretty similar to this amount moving forward. But
Okay, so it's $197,000, so over 18 years, so. All right, yes, sir.
Under whose tutelage will these funds be administered? Is it the chief of police or city
Ultimately, the
manager?
purview of the public safety director, probably.
Public safety
But again,
director.
these funds haven't been appropriated at this point, so, as we go through the process of making recommendations, I can tell you, and again, we've not thoroughly vetted concepts, and look, this is good money, but it's not a lot of money. So, but I suggest that I think a good use of these funds in seeking to prevent supply of these materials in our community would be for the institution or reinstitution of a canine program here in our community, a more robust canine program. Based on conversations with our new police leadership, I think their feeling is there's nothing we could do to be more effective in combating substance abuse in the community than having a canine unit locally.
And just so the public understands, under the terms of the One Ohio MOU, under which we're getting the money, we can't apply this money to roads. We can't apply it to anything other than approved uses, which are anything that deals with helping to prevent drug abuse in our community.
Right. Right, and I would concur the canine program. And as a kid, I always thought of a canine or a police dog as a German Shepherd, but there's actually other breeds that are as or more successful than even a German Shepherd. Just recently went through the Cincinnati airport, and I believe it was like a large-sized poodle that was prancing in between, sniffing luggage and carry-ons. So I thought, wow, it doesn't have to be a German Shepherd. So, yeah.
I can donate my dog.
But no, I think that's phenomenal. I think that would be a great asset. Yeah.
She can sport it.
All right. Any other questions for either Mr. Duke or Mr. Merriman on this?
Mr. President, I want to thank the law director again for her due diligence, getting all the paperwork filed, getting it in on time, and getting our first distribution. So I want to thank you for that publicly. Appreciate it.
All right, very good. All right, this time I will ask for a motion to establish the revenue fund.
So moved.
Moved by the mayor. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Dean. If there's no other questions, I'll ask for a roll call, please.
Councilman Scrivens?
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Branham?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Mayor May?
Aye.
President Smith?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Very good. Our last item under new business is a procedural motion. This is to approve the schedule of bills tonight in the amount of $966,000. So, Mr. Duke, I'll turn the floor over to you, please.
Thank you, Council President. This is a fairly large sum for the scheduled bills. I did want to point out a couple of things. One is that there's a fairly large expenditure for the repaving of Bellbrook Avenue. That total is $406,923.15. A little over $300,000 of that was grant funds allocated through the Ohio Public Works Commission. There's also a $140,000 expenditure in the bills for some work that's being done over on East 2nd Street, and that $140,000 is also grant funded through the CDBG program. So a large portion of the schedule of bills is related to infrastructure projects, much of which is grant funded.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Duke tonight?
I'll speak to him in executive session.
Okay, so no questions right now?
No.
All right, I'll seek a motion to pay the bills tonight.
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman Dean. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by the mayor. All right, we'll go for a roll call, please.
Councilman Scrivens?
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Branham?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Mayor May?
Aye.
President Smith?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. All right, next is appointed officials reports. If it's okay, we'll start with the law director.
Okay with me? Two things quickly. First, just a reminder for our citizens that our second batch of charter amendments will be on the ballot next Tuesday. I encourage you to get out and vote on those. If you have questions, anyone in the public, feel free to contact the city. We'll be happy to answer any questions you have. Two, and I'll let the mayor expand on this during council comments, but we had a very good legislative review committee meeting before the council meeting. We are starting the process of our rewrite to Title VI, which is the administrative code. We are doing some reorganization, consolidating some departments and divisions, creating some new departments and divisions. Our intent is to present this to council in chunks. We think it'll be easier for you to read and digest. The goal is to have an effective date of January 1st for all of it, that it will all kick in on the 1st of January. So tonight, legislative review, reviewed the public safety chapter. We will be presenting that to you as council at your meeting in August. And then either the city manager's chapters or the finance department chapters will be next. They haven't decided who's going to go first. But we're going to have a lot of reading for you coming up here the next couple months. And my appreciation to legislative review. We've called a lot of meetings on you this year. We still have a few more to go and then we'll be done.
All right, thank you. Any comments or questions to the law director tonight? All right, and I would like to thank legislative review. I know you guys have been here since 4 o'clock today for your meeting, so thanks. That's Councilwoman Dean, Councilman Scrivens, and the mayor, so thanks for your time tonight. Makes it a long evening. So our next is, how about Finance Director, Mr. Duke? What do you have for us tonight?
Given the long list of work session topics, I'll pass on any additional comments.
All right, any questions for Mr. Duke yet? All right, we'll save those for later. And then Mr. Merriman, what do you have for us tonight?
Nothing further for the regular session, sir.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Merriman tonight? All right, we'll move on. So next on our agenda is council comments and reports. So at this time, I'll defer to my left and ask Councilwoman Dean if she has anything tonight. All right, Councilman Scrivens?
Just 2 things, Mr.
All
President.
right, thank you.
First, we want to express our deepest sympathy and our condolences to the family of Officer Matthew Yates. We had an officer that lost his life a few weeks ago in Blanchester, and we didn't get a chance to offer our condolences for him. We have a plague in our country, and it's affecting everybody. And just want you to know that the police officers are your neighbors. They're your round the corner friends. They've just sworn an oath to preserve and protect. And we have to back them 100%. And I just want to know that, want the world to know that here in Xenia, we appreciate our police officers. And we know in Clark County that right now they're having a time, and we want to express our sympathy with them. Also, Mr. President, one other thing. A fellow by the name of Curtis Williams, Jr., he was about 27 years old. His mother found him dead in his bed a couple of Mondays ago. And you just want to know what happens when young people are found dead in their bed. And just want to say to his parents, Curtis Sr. and Robin Lane Newsom, that we feel your pain, and we'll be there to help you mourn his homegoing tomorrow. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Scrivens. Councilman Brano.
Yeah, BZA did not meet on the 22nd due to lack of agenda items. Probably hopefully get back next month. Thoughts and prayers are with the Clark County Sheriff's Department, and thanks for those Xenia PD officers that responded to the call that day as well.
That's right.
All right, thank you, Councilman Brano. Councilman Dean?
I don't have anything further to add.
All right, thank you. Mayor Reyes.
Thank you. I'll just echo what my colleagues have already said, and our sympathies and our condolences, and also, of course, thanks to our police department as well. I do want to add one other family and condolences to the Cummings family. Mark and Karen were in a horrible car accident. And if you don't know them, they were involved with the Xenia Naz Church. I believe Karen worked there for 30-some years. And I've known her. The two of them have done so much work in our community at the Fish Food Pantry, at Bridges of Hope, at the Episcopal Church, the Clothing Closet. Those two loved this community very deeply. And I know that the people, folks at the Naz Church are hurting. Pastor Mark and Cheryl and a few others. They have impacted Xenia, and many of us have been very impacted by them as well. So their services are going to be tomorrow and Saturday as well. I also wanted to note, congratulate Steve Lane, and his retirement was official today. 29 years of service to the Xenia community, and thank him publicly for all his work and his service here. And again, somebody who has loved this community well and served many of us, and prays for many of us. So thank you, Steve. And then I wasn't going to mention this tonight, but I will. Pastor Schwolko mentioned August 14th. That is going to be a community-wide Sunday morning service at Shawnee Park. I know there's about 15 plus churches that have already agreed to meet at the park on that Sunday morning and not in our regular buildings. And that'll be at 10:30 Shawnee Park. And it's been really exciting. I've had a chance to sit in with the pastors' meetings who are planning the service. And there's just been such a spirit of unity and wanting to love Xenia well and do something just do something really meaningful here for Xenia and together as the body of Christ. So if you are interested, it'll be August 14th at 10:30. There'll be people who are helping with parking and providing rides down to the park if you can't walk that far. There'll be a lot of churches doing music. They're going to bring a speaker from the outside because they didn't want one of the pastors to, they wanted everybody to be able to participate and not feel any one pastor over the other, so they're bringing somebody from outside of the community. It's just a really exciting thing, so that's all I have.
All right, thank you. Anyone have any comments for the mayor tonight? All right, thank you. And in the audience, correct me if I'm wrong, planning and zoning will have a meeting August 4th. Is that correct, at 6 o'clock? Okay, thank you very much. Other than that, I really don't have anything else to report other than my sympathies for the Yates family in Clark County. That happened over the weekend. I was out of town. I was sad to hear about that. Here's how it's going to go tonight. We're going to take about a 4 or 5 minute recess. We are going to come back in a work session with various topics. And then that portion will not be televised due to the length of the meeting. However, we appreciate those that are watching. So at this time, we'll take a 5 minute recess. Thank you.